Hello everyone, welcome to GS Core. So in our series for current affairs through MCQ for governance, we are back with another session having an interesting mix of MCQs to cover the contemporary and current events related to governance. So let's jump to the set of questions. Consider the following statements regarding national manufacturing policy. If we look at manufacturing, this particular sector as an area of governance is increasingly gaining importance because of schemes like PLI and the boost to the MSME sector, right? If you see, the government is putting a lot of emphasis on these sectors. It is creating certain zones, right? Whether it is the defense corridor, right? Things like that, which are actually boosting, or the idea is to boost the domestic manufacturing. So let us look at these statements. It aims to increase the share of manufacturing sector to 25% of GDP. That is correct. And the idea was to create 100 million jobs. The National Investment and Manufacturing Zone, NIMZs, are an important instrumentality of the manufacturing policy. Yes, that is also correct. If we look at the policy, there are multiple salient features, but the overall idea is to provide incentives for the infrastructure development on a public-private basis through appropriate financing instruments, right? And hence, through these multiple interventions to boost manufacturing or to give a shot in the arm of manufacturing is being done at the moment. Since both the statements are correct, hence the correct answer for us to mark is option C. Option C. Moving on. Consider the following statements regarding electronic manufacturing cluster scheme. Again, one of the ideas to boost manufacturing. The scheme is aimed at providing a grant assistance for setting up greenfield projects only. This is the catch here. If we look at the electronic manufacturing clusters, it is aimed at both greenfield and brownfield, right? So not only greenfield. So if the statement was still here, then this would have been a correct statement. But since only word is there, hence this makes this statement incorrect. So be very clear about these details and the words which are mentioned. The scheme was notified by the Ministry of Heavy Industries. Again, it is incorrect. It was notified by MIT, that is the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. So the classic stakeholder mapping, right, and the sector or dimension mapping will clearly make you identify these statements or the veracity of these statements. So since this is also incorrect, hence both the options are incorrect. So we will choose option D, neither 1 nor 2, to mark our answer. Moving on. Which of the following statements regarding the Prime Minister's National Relief Fund is or are correct? Remember, PM Cares is in news, right? It was in news recently where the questions were asked that why can't there be a public accountability, etc., etc. Also, this makes its juxtaposition with the Prime Minister National Relief Fund very, very important. So the question might not be directly on this, but on the applied aspect. Remember, locus and focus approach. So while the focus might not be asked, the locus might be asked. Let us look at the set of statements that we have. Okay. It was constituted by the parliament to assist displaced persons from Pakistan. No, that is incorrect. In fact, it has not been constituted by the parliament. The fund is recognized as a trust, okay, under the Income Tax Act. Second statement, the fund consists entirely of public contributions and does not get any budgetary support. That is correct. Rather, the instrumentality of budget is used at times to use this Prime Minister National Relief Fund or to actually give a policy direction. Unlike PM Cares, Prime Minister National Relief Fund is audited by the Comptroller Auditor General of India. That is also incorrect. In fact, it is not audited by the C&AG. There is an independent auditor outside the government. At times, at present, it's SARC and Associates, a chartered accountancy firm which actually audits the Prime Minister National Relief Fund. So we have 1 and 3 statement as incorrect. Second statement is as correct, and we need to choose the correct answer. Hence, the correct answer here to mark would be option B. Option B. Moving on. Sambhav program is a, so remember I talked about sub schemes, umbrella schemes, right, and the mapping before as well. So this becomes a highly factual area, but if you have a mapping with regards to dimensions, you can easily deduce, right? It is basically a national level awareness program to promote engagement of youth in the promotion of entrepreneurship and boost domestic manufacturing. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't, right? Also, the other options might seem probable, like for Divyangjan, for nutrition, okay, or academic base, generate human resources, etc. Hence, it is very important that you are absolutely sure about things, and you can be only sure if you have the fact and the mapping at your disposal. Hence, the correct answer here to mark would be option C. Option C. Moving on. Which of the following statements regarding the Samudrayan mission is or are correct? Remember, while space remains the focus generally of the candidates, right? It is the ocean in which a lot of development is happening in this space. While we are talking about GSLV Mark III, Gaganyaan, right, Navik, reusable launch vehicle, etc. This thing was also in news but can easily get obscured, right? So let us look at the set of statements. It is India's first manned ocean mission for deep ocean exploration and mining of rare minerals. That is correct. It is a part of the deep ocean mission. That is also correct. Okay. Then statement number 3. It is an initiative of Ministry of Science and Technology. No. It is an initiative of Ministry of Earth Sciences. Right. So the stakeholder mapping again coming to your rescue. So we have the first 2 statements as correct statements. The third statement is the incorrect statement. Hence, the correct option to mark for us would be option B. Option B. Moving on. Which of the following statement is or are correct about perform, achieve and trade scheme? If you remember in the previous video, we talked about a question related to NMEE, that is National Mission for Enhanced Energy Efficiency, right? So we did talk about it, and PAT was one of the sub schemes under the umbrella, right? So now it is very easy for you to deduce. Okay, let us look at the first statement. It is a flagship program of Bureau of Energy Efficiency. Your mapping of stakeholders coming to your rescue here. Whether this is correct or not, yes, this is correct. It has started under the National Mission for Enhanced Energy Efficiency, one of the 8 national missions under National Action Plan on Climate Change. True. We have spoken about this in the previous video as well. Next, the energy savings achieved by the notified industries is converted into tradable instruments called energy saving certificates, that is ES certs, for the purpose of trading. Yes, that is the core of this. So the dimensions, entities as part of various schemes, mission, program, right? This mapping of sorts always helps. So if we look at this particular question, we find that all the 3 statements are correct. Hence, the correct option to mark for us would be option D. Option D. Moving on. Which of the following statements about PM Kisan scheme is incorrect? Remember, it's an election year 2024 which is coming. So government is popularizing a lot of its schemes. When I say schemes, I always talk about the funding. And that brings us to the very first statement. Central sector scheme with 60-40 funding from central government and state governments respectively. No, it is 100% central. So while generally the 60-40 rule follows and 90-10 for hilly states and northeast states, right, you should keep a track where this trend breaks. So we have easily found out the incorrect statement if we know that this breaks this trend, right? So our answer for this question would be option A. However, let us look at other statements, I beg your pardon. An income support of 6,000 per year in 3 equal installments, correct. The fund will be directly transferred to the bank accounts of the beneficiaries, Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile. The scheme is launched by Department of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, true, right. So if you are going to get into a thinking process wherein you are going to look at salient features and then decide, then you might or might not hit it correctly because you might get confused. But if you have this mapping clear out and the broad points of funding, stakeholders, etc., you can very well examine the veracity of the statements. Okay, next question. Bharatiya Poshan Krishi Kosh has been launched by, again, the stakeholder mapping. And the name might confuse you, Poshan Krishi. So easily you can be deceived to mark option A as the correct option. However, it is under the Ministry of Women and Child Development. So the stakeholder map is very, very important. Okay. Next. Consider the following statements regarding 5-star villages scheme. If you recall, Vibrant Villages program related to the northeastern states, related to the border states, border villages, I beg your pardon, is in news, right? And now it is being termed that this Vibrant Village program will be merged with the idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat, etc., etc., right? All this has been in news. But the question might not be asked on this, but on a similar kind of naming 5-star villages, right? So if we look at it, it is a very obscure idea, but if you will look at India Yearbook, it very well captures all these things. So let us look at the set of statements that we have. It is an initiative of Department of Post to ensure 100% rural coverage of postal schemes. That is correct. The schemes covered under 5-star scheme are Sukanya Samriddhi account, Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana. That is correct. If you recall, recently the first 3D printed post office was being made in Karnataka, right? So things which are in news, the stakeholders, you should keep a track, you should keep extrapolating that if Vibrant Villages program is in news, are there any similar kind of sounding programs which are there? Okay. So in this case, both the statements are correct. Hence, the option to mark would be option C. Option C. Next. Consider the following statements regarding Project Stars. Again, very, very abstract. So if you do not know, don't risk it. Okay. It's a World Economic Forum aided project to be implemented as a new centrally sponsored scheme under Ministry of Education. Well, World Economic Forum, which happens in Davos, Switzerland, right? They do not really sponsor or aid such projects. right? In fact, it is a World Bank aided project. So this factual idea makes the statement incorrect. So again, the stakeholder map coming to your rescue. Next, it is aimed at strengthening teaching, learning and results of all the states and union territories of India. No, it is rather selective in terms of its coverage. It is going to cover basically 6 states, that is Himachal Pradesh, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Kerala and Odisha, right? Basically stars also, if you know the full form, stands for Strengthening Teaching, Learning and Results for States Program. Strengthening Teaching, Learning and Results for the States Program. So this is the full form. So even if you know the full form, you can still at least gauge the area which it tries to address, right? So in this case, both the statements are getting incorrect on a factual ground that one is the agency involved and other is the applicability of the states, which you can easily sort out through stakeholder map once you identify stars, right? So since both the statements are incorrect, hence the correct answer for us to mark would be option D. Option D. So that's all for this session. You can attempt more such interesting quizzes online by scanning this QR code or by visiting the link in the description, not just for governance, but for all the subjects related to the prelims examination. All the best.